Okay, Legend of the Five Rings is played with two 40-card decks. You make them bigger than 40 cards, but generally you'll want them to be 40 cards. You've got your Dynasty Deck, which are the black-backed cards, and your Fate Deck, which are green-backed. These four spots in the middle are your Providences, and those are the areas that you'll be defending when you come under attack. Now, the strength of your Providences is determined by your Stronghold. Now, your Stronghold is arguably the most important card in the game. The Stronghold has a couple values on it. 7 is the strength of your Providences. That's how strong an army would have to be to destroy a Providences. They would have to have greater than 7 force. 4 is how much gold your Stronghold produces when it taps or bows. And 5 is your family's starting honor. And you'll want to track your honor because it'll change throughout the game. So I've got a D20 here, set to 5, because that is my starting honor. Now when you get started, you'll want to pull 4 cards from your Dynasty deck and put them into your 4 Providences. And you always go from left to right when you're refilling these. And you always flip them over from left to right. Now your Dynasty deck primarily consists of holdings, which will produce you gold so that you can buy things, and personalities, which are kind of like your creatures that you'll use to fight. So let's flip over our cards here and see what we got. We got a personality, a holding, a personality, and a holding. Now generally on your first turn, since holdings produce gold, you'll want to pick those up kind of early. So let's have a look. This holding costs 2, as indicated by that, and it has the effect of increasing my maximum hand size by 1. And then you can bow it or tap it to produce 2 gold to buy something. And we've got this small library, which is more expensive. However, it produces 3 gold when it's bowed, and after it enters play from a province, I can refill that province with a face-up card. Generally, if I were to buy this card, the province would get filled with a face-down card. Say I bought it. It would get refilled immediately with a face-down card, and that card wouldn't flip over till my next turn. However, this library has a special effect, so we'll think about that when we're deciding what we want to do here. And then the next thing you'll want to do is draw your starting hand. Now, cards from your Fate deck go into what would traditionally be called your hand, and you start with 6 of those. So I'm going to pull 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and we're going to just set those aside for a minute. Usually you won't get into those until your second or even third turn. So I'm going to set those over here. Okay, now we've got our Stronghold here that can produce 4 gold for us. And we also start the game with a Border Keep. And the Border Keep can produce 2 gold. It's got some other abilities, but we're going to ignore those for now. So we've got 2 gold and 4 gold. So why don't we buy our 2 holdings that we have in front of us. We've got the Farmer's Market, which costs 2. So if we buy it, we will tap the Border Keep that produces 2, and we can buy the Farmer's Market. Now when you buy a holding, it enters play tapped, so you can't use it the same turn you buy it. So now that that spot's empty, it immediately gets filled up with a face-down card. And then we've got our 4 gold from our Stronghold that we can use. So I'm going to tap the Stronghold and pay 4 gold for this small library. Now, if this small library had cost 3 gold, that extra gold I would just lose. Because if you say you tap a card that produces 4 gold to buy a card that costs 3, that extra gold is taxed by the Empire, and you just lose it. You can't use it to buy other cards or anything. Alright, so we bought our small library, and it enters tapped, and then the small library had that special effect where we can refill it with a face-up card, which happens to be a small farm. Now, a small farm costs 0 gold, and it produces 1 gold when it's tapped. So, since it doesn't cost anything, why don't we go ahead and grab it this turn? And we'll put it down here with our others, and then refill this spot with a face down card. Now let's look at our personalities. This guy, he's got a few numbers on him. The 10, of course, is how much he costs to buy. This empty box with the dash in it is his honor requirement. My family honor has to be at that number in order to call upon him to fight for my family. Now, my family honor is 5, and he doesn't have an honor requirement, so I wouldn't have to worry about that with him. And then that 1 is in reference to how much honor he would bring my family if I paid full price for him. 6 is his force, which is what he would use kind of to attack my opponent's providences. And then 4 is his chi, kind of his life force, if he were to be attacked directly. This guy has a minimum honor requirement of 5. So since my current family honor is at 5, I would be able to buy him. However, I don't have any gold. Let's see, this guy costs quite a bit, and I'm unlikely to be able to use him next turn. So what I'm going to do is, at the end of my turn, I'm going to discard him and refill that spot. That way I can bring out a card that might actually be helpful on my next turn, because I'm not likely to be able to use him for a couple turns. And then at the very end of my turn, I would draw another fate card into my hand, which has a maximum hand size of 8 cards. You cannot end your turn with more than 8 cards. Alright, so my opponent takes his or her first turn, does something pretty similar to what I did, gets holdings, and then I start my second turn. At the beginning of my second turn, I untap everything, or unbow everything, and then I turn these cards over from left to right. Another personality, another personality, and another personality. So I've got 4 personalities that I can choose from that I could potentially buy and enter into play with. So I'm not going to go into that. That essentially outlines your first turn and the basic setup of the game, which is what I wanted to cover in this movie. So hopefully it was helpful, and we'll check you later.